Over 2,000 bodies remain unidentified or unclaimed at government-owned mortuaries in Gauteng. The Democratic Alliance in the province says Health MEC Dr. Gwen Ramakgopa made these revelations in a written reply in the Legislature recently. Shootings, car accidents, stab wounds were listed as major causes of unnatural deaths, requiring postmortems in state mortuaries. So to tell us more, we're joined in studio by the DA's shadow MEC of Health in the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, Jack Plume. Jack, good to have you. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, good to be here.
So let's just begin by your concerns. So we've got these bodies that are piling up. What is your major concern behind this?
Well, just the vast human tragedy of the fact that more than 2,000 unidentified bodies, and these unidentified bodies become unclaimed bodies. So what happens is that they're buried anonymously in a pauper's grave, and I think it's... just imagine there's families out there searching for a missing loved one, and this person has been lying in a mortuary unidentified and now buried anonymously. So I think we need to do more to identify these bodies and return them to their families.
Yeah. So let's talk about the process. Once somebody has been killed or they die or whatever the situation may be, they get taken to a mortuary, to the state mortuary. Is that how it works? Or from a hospital to a mortuary? And then they need to be claimed. You talk us through the process, and then we can kind of see how we've gotten here.
Well, legally, all cases of what could be termed unnatural death, and that might happen in the hospital after an operation, where they think things might have gone untoward, but the vast majority are victims of violence. It's mostly stabbings, shootings, and motor vehicle accidents. So what happens is somebody dies of unnatural causes, or suspected unnatural causes, and by law have to be taken to a state mortuary, and then of course post-mortem has to be done. They're there for 30 days, and obviously they do try and identify and alert the family, but after 30 days they actually have to go through the procedure, if it's not claimed, to bury the body, and it's just a pauper's grave, unmarked, and there might be a family out there not knowing where their loved one is, and that's because the person has not been identified. So it's really, I think, very sad, actually.
It certainly is sad, but if we look at the municipality now, as you say, there's a 30-day period where if the body hasn't been claimed, it receives a pauper's funeral. However, is that not happening? The fact that we're sitting with about 2,000 unclaimed bodies, or more than 2,000. Are these funerals not happening, that the bodies are piling up?
No, they have the limited storage capacity. So when an unidentified body becomes an unclaimed body, which becomes a body that is buried in a pauper's grave.
Okay.
So we don't have the storage capacity to indefinitely store unidentified bodies. So they're buried.
Understand.
So they are buried.
So they are buried. These bodies are buried, but they're unclaimed. So that's where this is where your concern comes in, is that there is such a high volume of unclaimed bodies. But whose responsibility is it to claim them? Surely it is the family, if their loved ones are missing, or perhaps they're foreigners in the country that their families don't even know they're missing.
Look, a lot of them are foreigners, and but the thing is, I think that more needs to be done to make it easy to identify missing people, and I think there should be an internet website with controlled access. You can have photographs, and you need to look for clues. I mean, there's an interesting pilot project done in association with the International Red Cross, which has had quite a lot of success in just identifying if there's a tattoo on the body or any identifying characteristic, and they're actually working cross-border in Africa to identify people who are missing and who their family could be. So I think we need to expand this pilot project with the Red Cross. I do think we need an internet website using technology, and we must do all we can to bring down this very high number of unidentified bodies, because just understand the tragedy involved. There's, for each of these unidentified bodies buried anonymously in a grave, there's a family there not knowing what has happened to the person, and I think the least we could do is track them, find them, and well, preferably before the body is buried anonymously. You know, they actually bury them 5, one on top of each other. That's what a pauper's grave is. So I think we must try and speed up identification processes using international bodies like Red Cross, because a lot of them are foreigners, and you know, try and get the bodies back to their families as soon as possible.
How do we identify them? Would it be through fingerprints? Would it be through, what is the process of identifying a dead body?
Well, when they find a body, they would obviously look for, you know, personal papers, go through a person's wallet. I mean, it sounds intrusive, and but it has to be done.
It has to be done.
I think you have to work like a detective, actually. But I just think that we need to...
So you think that's where we're dropping the ball?
Yes, we're dropping the ball.
They are not investigating the bodies properly to identify them so that the families can claim them. And that's where the problem is coming in.
Yes, I think there could be a lot more detective work done. I think they could work with international bodies like Red Cross. I think we could have this website, which has been promised for many years, but I think it's high time it was up and running. And, you know, just be more public. I think that, you know, it's all very tragic deaths. You must understand that. But I think with a little more effort, we could identify a lot more of these unidentified bodies.
And, of course, there could be families out there, as you say, that have been searching and have got no record of where their loved one may be. Meantime, they actually may be dead and buried in a pauper's grave, and you are none the wiser. You have no idea. This is just Gauteng. Do you suspect that this could be a story throughout South Africa and in a lot of other mortuaries around the country?
Well, absolutely. Look, I think if we had to extrapolate the numbers, it's more than 2,000 in Gauteng over an 18-month period. If you did that for the whole of South Africa, that's about more than 10,000 unidentified bodies. Now, that's an enormous number. Surely we should be doing better. I mean, from a humanitarian point of view, it's just a tragedy. We have to do better. And that's my plea to the Gauteng Health Department. Expand the project with the Red Cross. Get this website up and running. Do more detective work with the clues that you have when an unidentified body arrives at a mortuary. And I think we could certainly make progress on this.
And bring that number down. This leads me to Life Esidimeni, because there are 21 bodies that are still missing. There are 21, I say bodies, I mean, they could be still alive, nobody really knows. Or they may be one of these people that have been buried without being identified. Do you suspect, do you think that they could be there, that could be the answer to these families that are desperately searching for their loved ones?
Unfortunately, I think that is the fate of most of the missing 21. You know, it's more than 2 years after the Life Esidimeni tragedy. These are very vulnerable people. I don't think they would have been able to survive without proper care for all this time. So unfortunately, I think many of the 21 that are still missing, officially listed as missing, I think we have to assume that many of them are no longer alive and that they're one of these unidentified bodies buried in an unidentified grave, and the family is grieving.
Yeah. Any progress whatsoever on Life Esidimeni and the search for these missing people? Still nothing?
Well, the initial list that was published was 62, and it's now down to 21, but it hasn't moved for the last 6 months. So I think at some stage, you know, there were 144 deaths with Life Esidimeni, and I think at some stage we have to include the missing 21, because if we haven't found them by now, then they're unfortunately no longer in the land of the living.
Finally, if people do have loved ones that are missing, and they suspect maybe after hearing this interview, actually that's where they could be, what do they need to approach the mortuaries here in Johannesburg? Should they take a photograph, something along those lines, and once they get there, will they then be able to look through records and see whether or not one of their loved ones has in fact been buried?
Well, can you imagine how traumatic it is to search for a loved one in there's 11 state mortuaries in Gauteng? And I think it needs to be made easier for people to do it. That's why I say we need this website. and we must do all we can to assist a family searching for a loved one. But there are 11 state mortuaries, and very often families go from mortuary to mortuary. I can't tell you how traumatic that is. It's even worse at a mortuary like Germiston, where there's been an ongoing strike and bodies are piling up. You know, I really think, quite frankly, that the state mortuaries in Gauteng need to be, improved dramatically, because, it must be the worst part of a family's life to go searching for someone, a loved one, in a mortuary, and you go there and there are mortuaries with bodies piling up, smells unclean, because we're not managing the mortuaries very well at all.
Okay, Jack Bloom, we'll leave it there for now. Thank you very, very much for talking to us. This is the DA's shadow MEC on health in the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, Jack Bloom. We're taking this conversation further. We're going to continue the discussion with somebody from Dr. Madupe Modisani, who is the Acting Deputy Director General of Hospital Services in Gauteng. We'll try and get some answers from him. Do stay tuned.